She said I was too focused on intimacy in the middle of a crowded rooftop party, like it was a casual observation instead of a verdict. Music was loud, glasses clinked, phones were lifted for stories, and she didn't lower her voice. She smiled while saying it, the kind of smile that turns a private marriage into public commentary. People around us kept laughing. No one noticed the pause except me. I stood there with my drink untouched, watching her lean slightly away, already half-turned toward the room. She didn't look angry. She looked relieved, like she had finally labeled the problem and set it down. A guy from her marketing team nodded along, pretending not to listen while listening to everything. I didn't respond. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stopped participating in the moment. Later, she drifted through the party without me, moving from group to group, comfortable, practiced. I stayed near the railing, checking a message from work that didn't need an answer yet. My phone buzzed again, a notification from our building's gym app about a new training slot opening up. Her slot. Same trainer. Same time blocks she had been guarding for weeks. When we left, she walked ahead, heels clicking, already scrolling. In the elevator, she kept her eyes on the screen. There was no follow-up, no check-in, no softening of what she'd said. At home, she changed, set her alarm, and placed her phone face down on the nightstand for the first time in years. I lay there awake, listening to her breathing settle, realizing something had shifted in plain sight. Not because she said too much, because she said it out loud and expected nothing back. The shift didn't announce itself the next day. It slipped in quietly, the way real changes do. In the morning, she moved through the kitchen with headphones in, already dressed for the gym. Matching set, hair pulled tight, body angled toward the mirror more than toward me. She poured coffee, checked her phone, and left without the usual quick touch on my shoulder. The door closed softly, like she didn't want to wake anything. By the afternoon, a message came from a coworker I trusted, someone who had known us since before the promotions and brand trips. He didn't accuse. He didn't dramatize. He just mentioned seeing her at the gym recently, laughing between sets with her trainer, lingering longer than a session usually lasts. He added that it looked rehearsed, like a ritual. I read it once and didn't reply. That evening, she came home energized, flushed in a way I hadn't seen in months. She talked about soreness, discipline, how good it felt to feel in control again. She said it while scrolling through photos from a shoot, barely looking at me. Her phone lit up on the counter with a notification. She flipped face down without thinking. I nodded at the right moments. I listened. I didn't ask questions. When she went to shower, I noticed her gym bag by the door, perfectly organized, not tossed aside like before. Inside, a fresh towel folded with care, a new water bottle, and a business card slipped into the side pocket. His name, his number, clean, intentional. I put everything back exactly as I found it. When she came out, wrapped in steam and confidence, she didn't notice my expression had changed. She kissed my cheek distractedly and moved past me. That was the moment I understood this wasn't about attraction. It was about control, and I had already stopped reaching for it. I stopped initiating things the same week. Not abruptly, not dramatically. I just didn't step forward anymore. In the mornings, I left earlier for work, laptop already open in my head, calendar tight. In the evenings, I came back focused, cooked if I felt like it, ate clean, logged back on. When she walked past in leggings and perfume, I noticed without reacting. When she lingered in doorways, waiting for eye contact, I stayed where I was. She noticed the change before she questioned it. She filled the space with movement, with noise, with updates I didn't ask for. She talked about progress, about numbers going down, strength going up, discipline returning. She said the trainer kept her accountable, said it like it was a professional achievement. I listened without leaning in. When she finished, there was a pause she wasn't used to holding alone. At night, I stayed on my side of the bed. No reaching, no negotiation. My phone stayed face up. Hers didn't. She shifted more than usual, checking if I was asleep. I wasn't. I just didn't turn toward her. Midweek, I joined a new early training block of my own. Different gym, different routine. I blocked evenings for product planning, long-term roadmaps, things that didn't include her input. When she suggested a weekend getaway, I said I already had commitments. She laughed it off, but her eyes stayed on me longer than necessary. By Friday, she stood in front of the mirror longer, adjusting angles, changing outfits before the gym. She asked if everything was okay between us. I told her I was good and went back to my screen. That was the first time she looked uncertain. Not rejected. Unplaced. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't know where my attention lived anymore. By the next week, she started tracking me without admitting it. Not messages, not questions, but timing. When I left. When I came back. Whether my calendar was blocked in the evenings. I didn't change my routines to confuse her. I kept them clean and predictable, just no longer centered around her orbit. One evening, she cooked dinner unexpectedly, music on, candles out of place for a weekday. I noticed the effort and thanked her. I ate, cleaned my plate, and went back to my desk. No lingering. No signal. From the kitchen, I felt her stillness before I saw it. She stood there longer than necessary, waiting for something that didn't arrive. Her gym sessions stretched later. Sometimes she came back energized, sometimes irritated, like the effect wore off too quickly. The trainer's name surfaced more often, always framed professionally, always justified. I didn't react. I didn't ask follow-ups. I let the words fall where they landed. On Thursday, she posted a photo after a workout, angled lighting, controlled smile. I didn't like it. I didn't view it twice. I stayed in a product review meeting longer than planned and turned my phone face down on the desk. When I got home, she asked if I'd seen it. I said I'd been busy. That night, she reached across the bed for the first time in weeks. Her hand rested there, unsure. I didn't pull away. I didn't move closer. After a moment, she withdrew it on her own. The next morning, she woke up early, already tense. She dressed carefully, checked her reflection twice, then looked at me like she wanted a reaction. I wished her a good workout and went back to my email. That was when she realized I wasn't pulling away to be noticed. I was redirecting myself somewhere she no longer had access to. The trainer stopped being invisible after that. Not because I confronted anything, but because the pattern tightened. Her schedule revolved around him now, anchored to sessions that couldn't be moved, meals planned around recovery, moods tied to progress he measured. Our life adjusted around a body routine that didn't include me. One afternoon, a charge popped up on our shared account from a supplement store near the gym. Not unusual on its own. What stood out was the repetition. Same day, every week. Same amount. I didn't mention it. I moved money into savings, adjusted autopay, quietly separated what needed to be separate. When she asked later why the balance looked different, I said I'd optimized a few things. She accepted it without digging. That weekend, she went to a brand event out of town. I stayed back, told her I had a product milestone coming up. She sent photos from the hotel gym mirror, lighting perfect, posture rehearsed. I reacted once, then muted the thread. While she was gone, I reorganized my office, cleared out old notebooks, signed up for a leadership sprint I'd been putting off for years. When she came back, she was restless. She hovered while I worked, asked what I was building now, said I seemed different. I told her I was focused. That word landed heavier than I expected. She went quiet after that. Later that night, I heard her on the balcony, voice low, laughing softly at something on her phone. When she came inside, she locked it without looking at me. I didn't ask who it was. I slept deeply for the first time in months. And when I woke up, I realized something had tipped. She was still collecting attention elsewhere. I had stopped supplying it entirely. The shift became visible to other people before she admitted it to herself. At a small dinner with friends, she reached for my arm while telling a story and caught only air. I was there, listening, but angled away, focused on a conversation about funding rounds and product failures. Someone asked how we were doing. I answered calmly, said work had been full lately. She laughed too quickly and filled the silence with details no one asked for. Her friends started watching her instead of me. Not openly, not cruelly, just with that quiet curiosity people get when something familiar stops behaving the same way. She checked her phone more often at the table, then glanced up to see if I noticed. I didn't. I excused myself early, said I had an early morning, and left her there mid-conversation. After that, invitations changed. Fewer couple plans. More solo things for her. She told me people were busy. I didn't question it. At work events, she arrived alone more often, dressed sharper, posting more, staying later. When I stopped appearing beside her, the absence spoke louder than any explanation. One evening, she came home irritated, pacing while I finished a call. She said people were asking strange questions, said someone implied I seemed distant. I told her projects go through phases and muted my mic. When I turned back, she was watching me like she was seeing a stranger occupy my chair. That night, she scrolled through old photos, pausing on ones where I stood close, where my attention was obvious. I saw it reflected in the window. She didn't know I noticed. By then, the control she felt at the gym wasn't carrying her through the rest of her life. And everyone else could see the imbalance before she could name it. She tried to pull me back without saying it directly. Small things at first. She synced her schedule with mine again, started coming home earlier, asked what I was working on in a tone that suggested curiosity instead of inspection. I answered politely, briefly, and kept moving. The space between us stayed intact. Her gym sessions became inconsistent. Some days she skipped them entirely, came home restless, scrolling, posting stories that felt louder than usual. Other days she stayed longer than before and returned quiet, like something hadn't landed the way it used to. The confidence she wore so easily at first now needed constant adjustment. One evening, she sat across from me on the couch, legs tucked under her, pretending to watch something while clearly watching me. She asked if I was happy. I told her I was focused. The word landed again, heavier this time. She nodded, but her hands didn't know where to rest. The trainer's presence didn't disappear, but it lost its shine. I could tell by the way she checked her phone afterward, by the pauses between notifications, by how quickly she locked the screen when nothing came in. Whatever control she felt there stopped carrying her through the rest of the day. I kept my routine steady. Early mornings, clean meals, progress that showed up quietly in my posture and my calendar. People at work started commenting on the shift, the clarity. I didn't explain it. At home, she started filling the silence with questions she didn't want answered. Where I was headed, what I was building toward, whether I still saw us the same way. I stayed present, calm, unavailable. By then, she wasn't losing me loudly. She was losing access. And that kind of isolation doesn't announce itself. It settles in and waits. The confrontation didn't come with raised voices or accusations. It arrived quietly, late one evening, when she realized the distance wasn't a phase anymore. She waited until I finished work, until the apartment settled into that familiar stillness. Then she sat across from me, closer than she had been in weeks, like proximity alone could restore something. She said we felt disconnected. She said she didn't recognize us lately. She said she felt like she was losing me. Her words were careful, measured, framed as concern instead of guilt. I listened without interrupting, without shifting forward, without offering reassurance. When she paused, waiting for me to fill the space, I didn't. I stayed where I was, calm, grounded, fully present, and completely unavailable. The silence stretched longer than she expected. Her composure cracked just enough to show confusion. She asked if she had done something wrong. I told her I'd been focusing on myself and my responsibilities. Nothing more. No defense. No counter-question. No invitation to continue. The simplicity of it unsettled her more than any accusation could have. She searched my face for warmth and didn't find it. Not because it was gone, but because it was no longer offered freely. She shifted, crossed, and uncrossed her legs, glanced at my hands like she remembered what they used to do. She mentioned the gym less confidently this time, framed it as something that had helped her feel seen. I acknowledged it with a nod and let it in there. I didn't challenge it. I didn't compete with it. By the end of the conversation, she wasn't angry. She was unsettled. The dynamic she'd relied on no longer responded to pressure or performance. And for the first time, she understood that whatever she had built elsewhere hadn't prepared her for losing access to me. Her control unraveled in small, visible ways. Not dramatic, not explosive, just enough for people to notice. She missed deadlines. She forgot details she used to manage effortlessly. Her posts became more frequent but less precise, like she was trying to recreate a feeling instead of documenting one. The confidence that once looked effortless now needed constant reinforcement. The trainer stopped appearing in her stories altogether. Not because he was gone, but because whatever he offered no longer carried weight outside that room. She came home quieter, moved through the apartment without direction, opened the fridge, and closed it again. She checked her phone, then set it down like it disappointed her. At work, my schedule tightened. A promotion conversation moved forward faster than expected. I traveled more, stayed late when it mattered, came home calm and contained. I didn't update her. She found out through fragments, overheard calls, emails left open on my screen. Each detail landed late, like news of a life she wasn't part of anymore. One evening, she waited up for me. Not dressed up, not rehearsed, just tired. She watched me set my keys down, noticed how at ease I looked, how unaffected. She said my name like it used to mean something stable. I acknowledged her and kept moving. That night, she cried quietly in the bathroom. I didn't follow. I didn't listen at the door. I went to sleep. By morning, she was already awake, sitting still, staring at nothing. The house felt different. Not broken, reorganized. She had lost her audience, her leverage, her certainty. And the absence that hurt her most wasn't the trainer fading out. It was realizing that I was still there, living fully, and no longer oriented around her at all. The final moment didn't arrive with a fight or a confession. It came on an ordinary evening, when the apartment was quiet and nothing demanded attention. She stood near the window, arms folded, watching the city like it might offer an answer. I finished packing my bag for the next day, movement steady, unhurried. She asked if we were going to talk about what had happened to us. Not what she'd done, not what I'd done, just what had happened, as if it were weather. I looked at her long enough to acknowledge the question, then went back to closing the zipper. The sound landed harder than any response. She said she never meant to push me away. She said she thought I'd always be there, that I wanted closeness more than anything else. She said she didn't realize what that focus had been worth until it was gone. Her voice stayed calm, but her posture didn't know where to settle. I picked up my keys and finally faced her. I didn't step closer. I didn't soften my tone. I told her I hadn't disappeared. I told her I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. The words didn't need volume. They landed clean on their own. She nodded slowly, like she was cataloging the moment for later, already knowing it wouldn't replay the same way. I walked past her, paused at the door, and left without looking back. In the hallway, everything felt lighter. Not because I'd won, not because she'd lost, but because my attention finally belonged to me again. And that was the one thing she could no longer compete with. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.